If you're looking for a new smartphone today, these three are the very best options right now: the new S23 Ultra, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and the Pixel 7 Pro. But which one is the overall best choice? Well, we have 14 different categories from looks all the way down to value to find out. The winner of each category gets 3 points, the second place gets 2, and the third place gets 1. But before all that, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor Jackery, the world's leading innovative and green outdoor energy solutions provider. More on Jackery later in the video. Starting off with the looks, these phones look very different. You see, the Samsung has this more squared off look, then the Pixel is more rounded, and then the iPhone is even more rounded. Now, there's also a big difference when it comes to their backs. With Samsung, you get this super stealthy black look with the camera modules just sitting on top of the back. With the iPhone, the black is technically more of like a gray, and by the way, these phones actually change their color based on how the light hits them. So in some cases, they would look gray, in other cases, they would both look very, very dark and basically black. Of course, we also have the famous camera island on the iPhone, and then we have the Pixel, which has a shade sort of like in between the two, if you take a look at them from a specific angle. Now, the Pixel is unfortunately the only one without a frosted glass back, so fingerprints will be very visible on this, but I do really like the camera visor on the Pixel. And yes, even though looks are very subjective, my personal favorite one is the S23 Ultra. And that's because it is super minimal. The back feels extremely smooth, way smoother than the iPhone, and I don't know, it just looks very futuristic. With this curved glass around the edges and this full screen design, super thin bezels, it looks as if you're simply just holding a screen. So Samsung's the winner, which means that it gets 3 points, then the iPhone, which gets 2, and then the Pixel gets 1 because it doesn't have frosted glass. Now, when it comes to the durability, the iPhone is the most durable one here. We got a stainless steel frame on the iPhone versus polished aluminum on the Pixel and the Samsung. I did actually drop my iPhone 14 Pro outdoors on asphalt, and aside from a few tiny marks, it is perfect. And the iPhone also has the highest water resistance of up to 6 meters for 30 minutes compared to 1.5 on the other two. And I have actually used previous iPhone models and Samsung's in pools before, seawater as well, and they were totally fine, although I do not recommend anything other than fresh water, as the salt from the seawater and the chlorine from the pool water can actually deteriorate the water seals over time. Oh, and none of their warranties actually cover water damage, so do keep that in mind. Now, even though the Samsung doesn't have a stainless steel frame, it does use armor aluminum, which is more durable than the Pixel's standard aluminum frame. And it also features Gorilla Glass Victus 2 for up to a 2-meter drop resistance on asphalt rather than 1.8 on the Pixel with Victus 1. Apple uses ceramic shield on the iPhone, which they claim to be very durable, but at the same time, they don't really give us any numbers. But do remember that all of these numbers were given in lab conditions. In the real world, when you drop any of these, they would very likely break, as the asphalt isn't really smooth. There's plenty of bumps and other factors that could influence all of that. All in all, iPhone first, Samsung second, Pixel third. Now, when it comes to comfort, that is definitely the Pixel. It has the most curved frame. Also, the frame sticks out a bit more compared to the display, which still gives it a great grip. And the Pixel is also the lightest out of the three. Now, the Samsung has a more squared off frame. It's still grippy, just not as comfortable as the Pixels. And then we have the iPhone, which has the most squared off frame, basically flat. And it is definitely the most uncomfortable and also the heaviest out of the three. In fact, even though the S23 Ultra is noticeably wider than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it feels more comfortable in the hand because of that more rounded frame. First place Pixel, second Samsung, third iPhone. Now, when it comes to the display, this is a tricky one, because if we just consider the immersiveness, then the winner is the S23 Ultra, and that's because it's got the biggest screen at 6.8 inches versus 6.7 on the other two. It also has the smallest camera cutout compared to, the dynamic island on the iPhone, which is massive, and it's also got a higher HDR brightness for when you're watching HDR content. Not only that, but the S23 Ultra, since the display is a bit more squared off and a bit wider, we can also see more content on the screen, as you can probably tell, than on the Pixel and the iPhone. On the Pixel and the Samsung, you can also set a custom DPI and get even more stuff displayed on your screen as opposed to the iPhone. Then if you do a lot of reading in bed at night, then Samsung has a feature called Extra Dim, which is a lifesaver, as it literally dims the minimum brightness even further to make it very easy for you to read. Now, the iPhone kind of has this too, it's just that you have to go into the accessibility options to enable this. So far, it looks like Samsung has the best display, but the iPhone does have one advantage, and that is the outdoors brightness, which is significantly higher. This can go up to 2000 nits outdoors compared to 1750 on the Samsung and 1500 on the Pixel. And in that case, the iPhone is noticeably brighter than the other two. They all have a 120Hz refresh rate panel, as well as an always-on display, although Samsung's version is way more customizable. So I guess it depends on what you need the most. Do you need more outdoor brightness, or do you need more screen space and extra dim at night? For my usage, the iPhone's extra brightness came in super handy outdoors, so I'm gonna give the iPhone the first place because of that, Samsung second, Pixel third. Speaking of outdoor adventures, we have Jackery to thank for sponsoring today's video with their new Jackery Solar Explorer 1500 Pro, an absolute beast for outdoor tech enthusiasts. With a 1512 watt-hour capacity and a maximum output of 1800 watts, this generator can handle anything you throw at it. You can also get 6 foldable Solar Saga 200-watt solar panels that ultra charge it in just 2 hours. That's the same as wall charging. You'll feel safe knowing that the 2 built-in security chips can guarantee 12 forms of protection, and the chip can also run 80 million safety checks per second. And all of this can be achieved without exceeding 46 decibels. That's library level noise. Thanks to their super quiet mode for more discreet powering experiences. So if you're interested in an awesome portable solar generator, check out the link down below, as Jackery is offering £100 off their solar generator 1500 Pro in their first week of sales starting from February the 16th. Now, in terms of video recording, this is quite tricky because they all have advantages and disadvantages. When it comes to the sheer quality, the iPhone is definitely the best. The footage is super clean, super high-res, very smooth. You also have ProRes for even higher quality. The night video looks great. It's just amazing. Then the Pixel is also very good, not quite as good as the iPhone, but still very good. And you can also use all lenses when shooting 4K 60 video, which the other two phones cannot do. And then the S23 Ultra, which definitely has the poorest dynamic range with lots of sharpening, but it can do 8K 30, the only one out of the three. Honestly, in terms of social media, they're all good enough. But if you want to do some editing and achieve some super impressive results, then that's where the iPhone really stands out. In fact, Marquez even shoots all of his videos on the autofocus channel using an iPhone entirely. First place, iPhone. Second, Pixel, good quality, and that 4K 60 lens switch is awesome. And then third, Samsung, as most people won't really care about 8K. Now, when it comes to photo taking, if you're an everyday user, then definitely go with the Pixel, as the Pixel has just some amazing image quality and image processing, so every shot that you take will automatically look good all the time. But if you're an amateur photographer, then definitely go with the S23 Ultra, as it's got everything in one package. 10x zoom, macro, an amazing ultra-wide, amazing night mode. Yeah, it's just so good overall. The iPhone is also really good, but sometimes it does blow out the highlights quite heavily, and its ultra-wide is just not as good as the other two. Its zoom range is lower than the other two, 3x compared to 5 and 10. So yeah, in reality, the Pixel and the Samsung look amazing at 10x, and they're the ones that you should probably go for. But do check out our detailed camera comparisons if you want to learn more about all of these cameras. But realistically, first place Samsung, as it's got everything into one package. Second place Pixel, as it's great for everyday shots and night shots. And third, iPhone, as its low light is not that great, and the processing still has some issues. Now, in terms of performance, if you care about raw performance, then the iPhone is definitely the fastest, then the Samsung, and then the Pixel. But you probably won't be doing benchmarks all day, so in terms of how they actually feel, they're all super fast, and they all feel crazy fluid. A couple of small things that I've noticed: on the Pixel, being the least powerful, it does take the longest when it comes to processing photos. And sometimes I have noticed that some apps do take a bit longer to load. The iPhone is pretty much super fast all the time. The RAM management is okay, not the best with 6 gigs of RAM, but you know, still okay. And the S23 Ultra has been super fast all the time. Like, the RAM management is just amazing. You can go back to apps that you've opened like days or even weeks ago and they would still be loaded in the background. So just awesome performance. And the animations now feel just as smooth as on the iPhone. So Samsung has definitely improved those, and it could also be thanks to the UFS 4.0 storage. And that's now the fastest storage out of all of these three phones. So first place, S23 Ultra, second, iPhone, and third, Pixel. Now, when it comes to the software experience, this one's quite tricky because they're all very different. So I'm gonna tell you about my experience using all three. So the iPhone is definitely the most limited. There's still no side-by-side multitasking, which is really frustrating when I do need it. But the most frustrating thing to me is, for example, when I open a link in Twitter. It opens the app on the App Store instead of, the actual Twitter app. And when you tap open in the App Store, it will open Twitter, but not in the link that I wanted to open it, if you get me. So iOS still cannot figure out external links. I've also experienced a lot of software glitches. I've had storage issues where my storage was constantly full. A friend of mine had the same issue too, and a bunch of you guys on Twitter. I've also had breaking issues at launch. Yeah, I haven't really had anything major like this on the Android side for quite a few years. I guess the bright side is that Apple still has the best software support. Samsung and Google now offer you about 3 to 4 years of software updates compared to 5 with Apple. On the other hand, the Pixel is super fun to use. It's got a very clean UI. It's also very simple, but at the same time, way more capable than the iPhone is. The external links work perfectly. Google Assistant is also way smarter than Siri, and side-by-side multitasking is an option here. And then Samsung is by far the most capable one. Like, for example, you can have folders in the app drawer itself and then keep your home screen organized. You also have a ton of quick toggles for activating various features on your phone. You can also have a secure hidden folder. You can also run multiple instances of the same messaging apps. We also have Dex, we have the Expert Plus app, which is just incredible for RAW, and that's built in, unlike on the iPhone and the Pixel, where you have to get third-party apps for that. You also have the Edge panel for pinning your most used apps. So yeah, you have so many time-saving features with the Samsung. So first place, S23 Ultra, second place, Pixel, third place, iPhone. But what makes each phone unique? Well, let's take a look at the unique features of each. When it comes to the iPhone, of course, the most unique one is the dynamic island. Although, to be honest, it is mostly a gimmick. There's no actual use to it. On the right side, we do have Siri shortcuts, which are very powerful if you know how to use them. And then there's also Face ID, which I actually do prefer over a fingerprint reader. Now, the S23 Ultra's most unique feature is, of course, the S Pen. But for me, this is also a gimmick. Like, I almost never use it, and that's because writing is always slower than, typing, and I rarely sketch. I guess it's good for signing documents, but I already have my signatures pre-saved, so I don't really have a need for it. Although I can see the use for some people. You also have Bixby routines, which are very powerful and also very similar to the Siri shortcuts. And then the Pixel has some unique features for the general public, like Magic Eraser, which allows you to remove objects and people from a photo with ease, Photo on Blur, which allows you to increase the resolution of blurry photos. Actually works like magic. But I think my favorite feature of the Pixel is just the haptics. This phone has the best typing experience I've ever used on any other phone. So because of this, I'm gonna give the win to the Pixel. That keyboard is just amazing. Second place, Samsung, and then third place, iPhone. When it comes to the speakers, I'll let you guys listen first. So I gotta say, the Samsung and the iPhone sounded very similar. The Pixel was definitely the quietest. So between all of these, I'm gonna give the point to the Samsung, which was a tiny bit louder than the iPhone and a tiny bit punchier. So for the first time, Samsung phone has better speakers than the iPhone. Now, in terms of the ecosystem, Apple is the best choice here. They have a wide variety of products. The iPhone, the iPad, Apple Watch, MacBooks, iMac, AirPods, HomePod, Apple TV, just loads, and they all work extremely well together. You have things such as universal copy and paste. You can use your iPad as a monitor for your Mac. You can use the keyboard and the trackpad of your Mac onto another Mac. You can also hold your iPhone close to your HomePod to send music directly and easily. Yeah, loads of stuff like this. However, Samsung's ecosystem is actually very close to Apple's today. They also have tons of products, the Galaxy Watch, the Galaxy Book, the Galaxy Tab, their smart TVs. They also have universal copy and paste now. In fact, you can even control your Samsung phone directly from your Galaxy Book. So yeah, very close to Apple's actually, it's just that Apple still has a few more products and just a tighter integration between them. Now, the Pixel's ecosystem is definitely the poorest, as in they do sell the Pixel Watch and the Pixel Buds and the Chromebooks, but the Chromebooks, for example, have no special integration with the Pixel as they're web-based. However, the advantage when it comes to the Pixel is that, for example, the Nest Hub can be used with any Android device, including an iPhone. So Google's ecosystem is open, same goes for the Samsung, whereas Apple's ecosystem is closed. So you need to use their products to take full advantage of everything that they have to offer. So first place, iPhone, a very close second place, Samsung, and then third, Pixel. Now, when it comes to charging, the fastest charging is found on the S23 Ultra. We have 45-watt fast charging, which brings you to about 50% in just 22 minutes, compared to 30 minutes on the other two. So we have 23 watts on the Pixel, and then 20 officially and 27 unofficially on the iPhone. But the biggest inconvenience to the iPhone is that you have a Lightning port as opposed to USB Type-C on the other ones. Now, if you prefer wireless charging, then the Pixel has the fastest wireless charging at 23 watts compared to 15 on the other two. However, you will need to buy Pixel's own wireless charger to achieve those speeds, and you will also need to buy Apple's own MagSafe to get to the 15-watt wireless charging, whereas Samsung is 15 watts with basically anything. Samsung and Google also offer you reverse wireless charging for charging your earbuds and your smartwatch. However, the Pixel won't be able to charge the Pixel Watch, unfortunately. So in terms of charging, first place Samsung, second Pixel, third iPhone. Now to compare the battery life, we'll be doing a detailed battery test where I'm going to travel to London for a whole day and then document the whole trip and my whole experience when using the phone. So do stay tuned for that. But until then, Z-Tech here did a battery drain test. And the iPhone 14 Pro Max lasted for 10 hours and 27 minutes, the S23 Ultra lasted for 10 hours and 8 minutes, and the Pixel 7 Pro lasted for 9 hours and 36 minutes. So based on this, the iPhone is the first, second Samsung, third Pixel. And in terms of the value, the iPhone 14 Pro Max costs $1,100 for the base 128GB of storage model. And by the way, it's impossible to find any discounts on this. The S23 Ultra, on the other hand, does actually cost more at $1,200, but it also comes with double the storage at $256. And if you pre-order it right now, using the links below, you also get 5 12GB of storage instead of 256 and 12 gigs of RAM instead of 8. Also, Samsung prices do tend to drop in the upcoming months. But then the Pixel 7 Pro now costs $600 at Best Buy. It used to be $900, but now it is $600, half the price of the S23 Ultra, and that's with 12 gigs of RAM, although 128 gigs of storage. And if you want to get more great deals, do tap on the YouTube shoppable cards down below. So value-wise, Pixel 7 Pro first, then the S23 Ultra, and then the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So in conclusion, adding all the points, the iPhone 14 Pro Max got 27, the Pixel got 24, and the S23 Ultra got 33. Of course, that they each excelled in different areas, so at the end of the day, it is really up to you to see which areas are the most important ones for you. And if you find out, then do let us know in the comments. All in all, I think you'll all be very happy no matter which phone you pick, as these are all some outstanding options. I'm Daniel, this is Zen of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zen of Tech, signing out. Cheers.